last week, Borderlands has hit theaters worldwide, and I was there on day one, ladies and gentlemen, in that theater.
What?
I saw it myself, so I could report to you here live for your amusement, and so I hope you appreciate that. But please leaving a like and subscribing. Now, just so you guys are up to speed, Borderlands has had quite a disastrous opening weekend. So the movie had reportedly $150 million budget, and in its opening weekend, including my money that I spent, the movie made $16.5 million worldwide. I believe it's like an 8 or 9 million in the U.S. and the rest across, internationally. Absolutely crazy numbers. So crazy, in fact, and a movie that actually initially premiered on Rotten Tomatoes. And I have to say it, I don't often. I never give Rotten Tomatoes any credit. Like I just don't. Like the numbers are so screwed most of the time. But it is crazy that Borderlands premiered with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and has now since climbed its way to 9% where it sits. But
for the critic ones, yeah,
yes, for the critics one, and it was so poorly received that Uwe Boll, the director of such beloved video game adaptations like Far Cry and Blood Rain, or I think is that what it's called? He came out of the woodworks and he said, "Ha ha," quote, "Ha ha, my movies are R-rated and made more money than this. Now you wish I directed," unquote.
I did not see that.
Yes. Oh man, I hope you guys understand. Nick laughed really loud, but so loud that it did not pick up. I will, because I could hear the laugh in my head, but it did not come through. But yeah, so kind of a crazy launch. This movie has officially, I guess, dethroned Madam Web for kind of big surprise of this year. I guess maybe, not surprise. Now, here's the thing. I am not a Borderlands fan. Austin, who you'll all see soon on the Retrograde show, he is a very big fan of Borderlands, and we'll get to that in a second. But I played the first Borderlands, a few hours of the first Borderlands twice. So I played the first 5 hours, ended up falling off of it, and then last year or 2 years ago, I played another 5-6 hours, and then I fell off of it. So I haven't finished the first one, but I have played the first one, and I played again 2 or 3 hours of the second one, and I haven't even looked at the third or the spinoff or anything like that. But that being said, I understand the world of Borderlands. I understand some of the characters and stuff like that. This feels so totally not Borderlands. And there's so many things that kind of lead into it. So, first of all, this kind of hints at what Nick was saying, which kind of made me talk about this, is that adaptations can come in different ways. And we've learned that a lot in the last year alone, where you have something like The Last of Us, which is nearly a beat-by-beat retelling of the game, but then it has these certain moments where they're like, oh, what, it would be interesting to explore more of this. And then they kind of do. They go down these weird paths that you don't expect. But by and large, it's the general experience. The person who watches the show will get almost the same experience as the person who plays the game. Then there's the show like a Fallout, where it's a canonical show that's in the universe, that's not in the game, that's not retelling any story from the games, it's just its own thing. Then you have something like Borderlands, which commits an adaptation sin that I've seen happen before in movies like the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, where it doesn't just borrow from it borrows from a movie, but or a game, but it borrows from multiple, and then it mashes them together into one story that just doesn't quite work. So the general idea, though, for those of you who haven't watched a trailer or are just curious, so is you are following this band of misfits comes together, and they are kind of hunting for a vault. That's the general idea of Borderlands. So it's generally descriptive that like that's what it is. But there's a lot of things that are like, so there's characters in the movie that are from the game. Obviously, you know, there's Tina, there's Lilith, there's fucking Roland,
Claptrap.
Yes, Claptrap. So they're all in there, but they're not they're not really faithful. I think Claptrap is pretty faithful, and the CGI on Claptrap is also like pretty sick too. So he's probably the most convincing part. Lilith, like Cate Blanchett, really like commits to her like this character. It's so weird, like because I remember the last movie I saw Cate Blanchett in theaters with, Jesus Christ, can't speak, was Tar. When if you know anything about that movie, it's totally serious, the super dramatic, like it was like very like like intense drama, in a way. And then you have her in this, and she totally commits to like. She like swings her hips out like when she walks, and it's like very like kind of the Borderlands kind of shape of bodies, and she has the way she fires her weapons too. Like it's like she's like does one shot and then flips it and then does another shot. Like she commits to it, and they do pretty good with what they're given in terms of writing. But again, the writing just seems just slapped together in terms of. I don't understand how they were able to get this into production when the script did not make sense. And you know what I mean? And it's one of those few times where I'll say that about a movie where I'm like, how did this? And I think there's been talks about how the original script for this movie was apparently really compelling. And then, Eli Roth came in and then kind of made it his own. And I'm not, I don't know. I haven't read the original script, so I can't say, oh, Eli Roth came in here and just messed it all up, because I don't know. The original could have been worse for all I know. But that being said, I don't really like Eli Roth movies. And on top of that, one thing that I can confidently give Eli Roth credit for is his use of gore. He can really use gore, which you would think would make perfect sense for Borderlands, because it's a gory ass game. I mean, there's constantly you're shooting limbs off. There's blood spurts. It's a violent game. It's rated M, but the movie is rated PG-13. So there's no gore in the movie. There's one scene of gore, and it's like a creature that gets like its head blown off, and that's like the only gore that you get really.
The classic green blood.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like The rest of it, even in scenes where like it would make so much sense for like there to be gnarly just fucking limbs flying, similar to like how Deadpool and Wolverine had it. Instead, it's just this generic, like there's nothing, it's very sterile action. There are some kind of interesting sequences. It's just that it's muddled around these really weird CG sequences that feel like they're just shot on green screen just to like, hey, like let's just like I think this would make sense here. And there's some weird cameos or just kind of like side characters that get thrown in that don't add much to the plot. They don't progress the plot much. And even as look, again, like I said, I'm not a diehard Borderlands fan, but I did talk to Austin about it just to confirm some of the things about that I saw in the games, because the plot of this movie, in terms of like what happens at the end, what they so the movie essentially has this, it's got this one thing that it keeps repeating, like, this is going to happen at the end of this movie. And then, it's kind of like nodding. And then all of a sudden it's like tries to bait and switch you and be like, actually, this is going to happen, you idiot. But by then it's like, I've already lost interest in these characters, and, I'm not invested. So it's just like, how did we get here? Like what's going on? And then so I talked to Austin, and from what he said, and he's played and platinumed in multiple versions. He's gotten intimate with these games, just like John Carpenter with the new Halloween games. And he said that the ending of what happens in the Borderlands movie is similar to what happens in the end of Borderlands 2. So it's like that's that reveal is what happens at the end of this movie. But gotcha. Also, there's a character. So I'll say it here. Tina is apparently totally not at all what she is in the game. I don't know what she is in the game, but Nick, have you played the Borderlands games?
Yeah, I've played all of them. I think.
Shit. Okay. Well, so you know who Tina is. You can maybe explain it. But so in the movie, Tina is supposed to be this like I forget what their name is, but they're like these alien people that like control the vaults. I guess they created.
Oh, I was watching Red Letter Media talk about it. I think it's like Aurelians.
Yes,
something
like that. Yeah. So Tina is apparently. I don't think there's a spoiler. If it is, please go watch the movie, I guess, and come back. She was essentially, they found a part of a DNA of these aliens, and then they use her, and then like that to create her. So she's like a clone, but she's like the head of Atlas is like her foster father type of thing, and he's kind of like using her. He wants her because she can unlock the vaults or whatever. Yeah. And so like none of that is apparently how it is in the game in terms of what Tina is. Is that correct?
Yeah, no. There's like none of that stuff based on the game. I mean, the first time you see Tina in Borderlands 2, she's like strapped a psycho to a chair and like blows him up with a stick of dynamite or something. Like that's like your backstory that you get, and then it, like an onion, it kind of unravels from there. But yeah, none of what you just described sounds at all familiar to me.
And also, yeah, the movie doesn't, the last two things I'll say about it, the movie doesn't have a style that really makes it like pop. And I'm not saying it has to be cel shaded, though it would be really interesting if there was some sort of, I don't know, if there was like, I don't know if they could, Nick, you're the editor here. I don't know if there's like a LUT that you could use, maybe some sort of like filter. I mean, something.
There's like rotoscoping, but that's like way more effort than they would
really intensive
do for this movie.
Yes, yeah, I totally understand. Granted, they spent 150 apparently on this movie. I'm just gonna say, but it'd be interesting to have some style. They don't have to do cel shading, but something that kind of makes it distinct. There are parts that almost feel cel shaded, like that like it'll just be like boring rock face, and then all of a sudden there's like these like stack of things, and they're like, oh, that's kind of looks like they belong in Borderlands, but like the rest is just not that. Or it'll just be CGI, and so it's just like a blurry green screen background type of thing, and that kind of so there's nothing really like, you don't often get chances to like, even the cool kind of like cover shots that you don't really get to gawk at them, because they're just like, oh, it's fine, it's not crazy. And then also the last thing is there's weird things that have been left. It's one of those, like, it's almost like the last season of Game of Thrones where one of the shots in the movie, you can see the crew helping them pull the door open in the kind of the money shot where they're opening like a fucking vault thing on the ground. They're like, it's like a manhole, and they're pulling it open, and you can see like the hands of like a crew member like pulling it back to lift up the lid. There's one scene that I saw go around that has an Axe bottle in it, and then there's an Axe bottle in one shot, and then it cuts back, and then it's not there. So stuff like that, just like, okay, well, if that's what's happening on a $150 million movie, then this is what you're gonna get.
That something like that. Ever since the Game of Thrones coffee cup thing,
yeah.
Some of those things, like, I wonder if it's like intentional. Like they'll like slap that stuff in there and be like, "Oh, maybe people on Twitter will point out our Axe bottle like in the shot." Like, yeah, that's like the cynical approach to it. But
yeah, dude,
I like to live in ignorance and think that it is just somebody who's just like, "Oh yeah, I need my axe," and I'm too lazy to.
No, I do like the narrative that there's just like one person on set who's just like, oh, like that. This whole movie can be bad, but the one frame where you can see the X bottle, that's mine, and whoever sees it, that's us connecting. That's a poetic way to look at it, Nick, and perhaps the most poetic thing about the Borderlands movie.